So this article comes from the Of Two Minds blog, which is actually charleshughsmith.blogspot.com. Of course, I'll post the link in my description box. This is a chart that I've seen in the past, and I'm glad I get to see it again because it's more accurate now, to show you what he's titled correctly: Why We Are Doomed, Our Economy's Toxic Inequality. And I've mentioned in the past, I remember doing a video on this where I had a lot of good charts. This was a while back. I don't know what the hell it was called now, but this is kind of some of that data. This is new though. And it would show a prosperous country, and it was one key ingredient: a healthy middle class with a little bit on the rich end, little bit on the poor end, but a very broad middle class. And they showed what happens to these countries when you have the policies that our corrupt politicians these days have, and they make a favor for this one, change some tax rules for that one. Next thing you know, again, you and I are paying for it. And the chart would always show middle class getting smaller, and smaller, and you'd get both ends growing. So on the other example, where you had this tiny rich and this tiny poor, a lot of middle class has now changed. A lot more poor, a lot less middle class, and not necessarily a lot more richer people, but on a scale of wealth off the freaking charts. Not that there's way more rich people. It's just that the few people who are rich just got massively more richer, while the middle class shrunk and the poor side grew as well. Because those middle class folk had scooted off towards the poor side, former middle class. So this is what he's talking about: why we're doomed, our economy's toxic inequality, and this is going to be spot on, I'm positive. Anyone who thinks our toxic financial system is stable is delusional, says Charles Hugh Smith. Why are we doomed? Those consuming overamped news feeds may be tempted to answer the culture wars, nuclear war with North Korea, or the Trump presidency. The one guaranteed source of doom is our broken financial system, which is visible in this chart, which I'm going to show you right now. Visible in this chart of income inequality from the New York Times, our broken economy in one simple chart. The fruit of financialization, soaring income inequality. So lower income households had the highest growth in 1980. And you can see the higher the income, the lower the growth rate. Then the red line. Now the super wealthy garner virtually all the income growth. Now it's reversed. The higher the income, the higher the growth rate. Except now the super wealthy garner virtually all of this income growth. As you can see, it's literally a straight up shot. Ain't no room for any new rich people. They've got it all, and they're getting it from us. Well, and again, here's old JSnip4 trying his damnedest to help anybody who's willing to listen to him on this channel. That's me, of course, talking about myself in third person, as I usually do. Hey guys, check out these crypto things. You know, I wasn't real sure about Bitcoin 2013. Later 2013. Guys, I got to change my mind on that. We need to look at this. 2014, 2015. End up playing a little bit of the game. 16, 17. Guys, I think I can give you some tips here on these cryptos. They're taking off like crazy. There's some serious money to be made, and I want to share it with you. Free of charge, of course. No problem. Doing these on these videos. I put my little ad slots in here. That's my, that's my payment, so to speak. I'd be doing these videos anyways, as you know, because I was before you were even allowed to put ads in here. Free of charge, of course. But since they allow it, why not throw a brother a bone via the commercial ads? But anyways, it's stuff like this that makes me say, I'm sure hoping that there's some people out there who did get into some of these cryptos, is stacking some metals for that rainy day when this crap goes downhill fast, and can say, you know what? Thank goodness I did that. Thank goodness, because man, the news is really bad now, and I just lost my job, or so, whatever it is. My wife lost her job. It's only me. But man, we made so much on these cryptos. We were able to pay our house off before this started getting really bad. And you know what I mean? And yes, there's people who put a few $1,000s into these things and turned tens of thousands. I'm one of them. Yes, one of them. I had other people turn $4,000 or $5,000 into over $200,000 on a Ripple play. Ripple cryptocurrency. Don't bother with Ripple now, by the way. Most of you already know this because you're my subscribers, so you're like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir right now. But again, it's like this. This is why I do these videos, man. Help anybody I possibly can before the going gets tough and the tough gets going. While the essay's title is Our Broken Economy, the source of this toxic concentration of income, wealth, and power in the top 1/100th of 1% is more specifically our broken financial system. What few observers understand is rapidly accelerating inequality is the only possible outcome, possible output of a fully financialized economy. Various do-gooders on the left and right propose schemes to cap this extraordinary rise in the concentration of income, wealth, and power. For example, increasing taxes on the super rich and lowering taxes on the working poor and middle class. But these are band-aids applied to a metastasizing tumor, financialization, which commoditizes labor, goods, services, and financial instruments and funnels the income and wealth to the very apex of the wealth power pyramid. Take a moment to ponder what this chart is telling us about our financial system and economy. 35 plus years ago, lower income households enjoyed the highest rates of income growth. The higher the income, the lower the rate of income growth, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not. It may sound like it, well, the lower the rate. No. The higher the income, the lower the rate of income growth. We don't need this massively skyrocketing income growth either. This trend hasn't just reversed. Virtually all the income gains are now concentrated in the top 1/100th of 1%, which has pulled away from the top 1%, the top 5%, and of course the top 10%, and absolutely as well from the bottom 90%, you and I. The fundamental driver of this profoundly destabilizing dynamic is the disconnect of finance from the real-world economy. The roots of this disconnect are debt. When we borrow from future earnings and energy production to fund consumption today, we are using finance to ramp up our consumption of real-world goods and services. In small doses, this use to finance to increase consumption of real-world goods and services is beneficial. Excuse me. Let me say that a little differently. In small doses, this use of finance to increase consumption of real-world goods and services is beneficial. Economies with access to credit can rapidly boost expansion in ways that economies with little credit cannot. But the process of financialization is not benign. Financialization turns everything into a commodity that can be traded and leveraged as a financial entity that is no longer firmly connected to the real world. The process of financialization requires expertise in the financial game, and it places a premium on immense flows of capital and opaque processes. For example, the bundling of debt such as mortgages or student loans into instruments that can be sold and traded. These instruments can then become the foundation of an entirely new layer of instruments that can be sold and traded. Think about the derivatives, which is kind of what he's just talking about here. Let's create a derivative on student loans or your mortgage, right? Mortgage-backed securities. This pyramiding of debt-based so-called assets spreads risk throughout the economy, while aggregating the gains into the hands of the very few with access to the capital and expertise needed to pass the risk and assets off onto others while keeping the gains. Profit flows to what's scarce. In a financialized economy, goods and services have become commodities, i.e. they are rarely scarce, because somewhere in the global economy, new supplies can be brought online. What's scarce in a financialized economy is specialized knowledge of financial games, not gains, games, such as tax avoidance, arbitrage, packaging, collateralized debt obligations, and so on. Though the billionaires who have actually launched real-world businesses get the media attention, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, etc., relatively few of the top 1/10 of 1% actually created a real-world business. Most are owners of capital with annual incomes of $10 million to $100 million that are finance generated. This is only possible in a financialized economy in which finance has become increasingly detached from the real-world economy. Those with the capital and skills to reap billions in profits from servicing and packaging student loan debt have no interest in whether the education being purchased with the loans has any utility to the indebted students, as their profits flow not from the real world, but from the debt itself. This is how we've ended up with an economy characterized by profound dysfunction in the real world of higher education, healthcare, etc., and immense fortunes being earned by a few at the top of the pyramid from the financialized games that have little to no connection to the real world economy. Anyone who thinks our toxic financial system is stable is delusional, he says. If history is any guide, and recall that human nature hasn't changed in the 5,000 years of recorded history, this sort of accelerating income/wealth/power/inequality is profoundly destabilizing economically, politically, and socially. All the domestic headlines, crises, culture, wars, opioid pandemic, etc., are not causes of discord. They are symptoms of the inevitable consequences of a toxic financial system that has broken our economy, our system of governance, and our society. If you found value in this content, please join me in seeking solutions by becoming a $1 a month patron of my work via patreon.com. Again, this is Charles Hugh Smith of Two Minds blog. Excellent article. I can't point out even one thing I'd like to bend slightly. Just a hair. Well, nope. Nailed it. This is it. Again, symptoms of a dying empire. And why do empires die? He just read it to you. With all the other symptoms. Well, you've got this, check. You've got that, check. You've got that one, check that one. You've got that one, check. You've got that one, check. Again, it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck. I think it's safe to say it's a duck. And history is repeating for the same damn reasons. In this under no circumstances can I see this ending well, unless a massive debt write-off of practically everything takes place across the planet. Massive jubilee. And let me ask you, and I'll ask my magic 8-ball, is there going to be a massive jubilee for everybody's dead and just wipe it off? Don't count on it. Yeah. Magic 8-ball, you usually come through and I need you. Thanks a lot, buddy. I'm out.